Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance, welcome. Katie, welcome. And Chris Hearn. That doesn't look like your office from an undisclosed location in the Florida Keys. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Still working hard, just working at a little bit better site at the moment.
There you go. Very nice. What's your weather like there?
93 and a little breezy, so it's nice. Not too bad.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Chris is the CEO, founder of Fountainhead Capital. He's joining us. I think you're going to start on Tuesdays. We'll figure it out. Hey, we got some questions. Please sure and send your questions. Thank you very much. And let's go to the polls. See when I say let's go to the polls. Let's bring up the poll question, guys. There we go. Boy, it's someone needs their coffee this morning. Hey, rate how Treasury / SBA implemented the Paycheck Protection Program under the CARES Act. How do you feel overall? What do you think, Lance?
Bob, I'm going to say good. There were moving rules related to PPP.
You didn't even have the answer.
The thing about it, Bob, is given the speed and the size of the program, it's hard to, be angry at them at all the changes that occurred and continue to occur with it. It's a big program, and a lot of participant lenders jumped in, and I think they did a good job. What do you think, Chris?
I wish there was a category between fair and good. I think that's where I'd probably be. I think intentions were excellent, and the speed to action was excellent. The problem, it's very complicated, and I think everybody could have used a little more forethought to properly roll this stuff out and not have it.
We all understand there's they sacrifice speed to market versus making sure everything, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Chris, if you could implement one or two things, what would they be?
Well, right now, I would probably, what's that? My wish list? I think I would probably make it a one-page forgiveness application certification for borrowers. I would make them all in the lower loan category, so 350 and below. That's one thing I would probably do. I definitely think they need to take it very seriously, this proposed P4. I think that makes a lot of sense. The smallest companies that have been hurt the most, giving them a second bite at the apple, I think that's absolutely something they should do. Those are two, and fortunately, both of those seem to be kind of in the works right now. So I think. Hey,
Katie, give us an update on P4. I know Congress is not in session, but just give us a recap of where we are with that legislation.
Right. So Congress is out of pocket here for about 2 weeks for the holiday. So they'll probably be back the end of next week. So we don't really have any updates for as of this week. However, it is looking like there is more support for P4. And I believe there was a report here that came out just yesterday from the chair who said that he is now supporting it and really pushing for it. So I believe it will probably pass here in a couple weeks. We just need to wait for Congress to get back in session.
Yeah, very good, very good. This has been all over the news and mainstream media that they picked up a lot of companies yesterday when Treasury released the borrowers the loans over 350. And do you feel some companies unfairly benefited from the PPP loan program?
This is something we were talking about before we started the call, and Chris's comment about some of the rules. These companies that are being highlighted followed the rules and legitimately got a PPP loan. The fact that, they're larger companies or they're connected to someone, I saw one of Kanye West, Katie was telling me about that, one of Kanye West, restaurant group or something like that got a PPP loan. They didn't break any rules. They followed the rules. I think the speed with which Treasury and SBA rushed the program out left those holes open. So, I don't know why you beat up the people who followed the rules and got it. It may not have been intended for them, but the rules let them get a PPP loan.
Chris, what's your take?
I agree with Lance. I mean, I've had to have this conversation with multiple people, including my wife, who got upset about some people that got PPP loans, who I explained some of the esoteric reasons why they were perfectly eligible. I think this is us imposing our own values and morals on things. And I think it's unfortunate. It's kind of like I think about the tax code, right? The tax code's massive, right? And there's all these different carve-outs and exceptions and exemptions and all these things. And if you're a public figure and you utilize the tax code to lower your tax burden, you often get criticized. And it's why. All those things were available to anybody else to utilize. And you got to point the finger candidly at the legislators who create these programs. If they would have tightened things up a little bit more, they might have gotten some criticism, but maybe it wouldn't have allowed us to, from the news media at least perspective, to impose our own values on some of these folks. I think a lot of people did. They followed the rules. They were eligible. They did what they should. Maybe some of the dollars went to places that perhaps we didn't expect it to go. I think that's fair. But I don't think some of these companies deserve some of the criticism that they're getting. I think it's really unfair. And I think, I just think it's, if it bleeds, it leads. It's the media trying to sell eyeballs in this day and age, and they get to be the ultimate arbiter of who's right and who's wrong, and it's really unfortunate.
Katie, I'd love to have your input on this. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I was just discussing this with a friend the other day who was kind of upset about somebody getting a loan. And I think I would be more upset if there wasn't money still available. But last I checked, there's still $30 billion available. So as long as they're using that funding to help keep people in their jobs, then I think the loans are doing their job.
Yeah, Katie, I agree with you 100%. This is to protect jobs, and I don't care if you work for Kanye West or the local church or Denny's. The program was designed to help jobs, and I agree with Katie that if we were running out of money, that'd be a different conversation, but we aren't. Go ahead, Lance. I know you wanted to jump in.
Well, the key thing, Bob, and you made it for me, the objective of the program was to keep people employed. This is not a standard SBA loan. The purpose was to keep people employed, and some of those companies that are getting criticized, they kept large numbers of people employed with the PPP loan funds. So I don't know how you beat them up, but it sure is fun to read about when you pick up your phone.
Yeah, some of them, I agree with you, Lance. Some of them you go, really? And then you just have to take a step back. Okay, we're employing people.
That's right.
And we're protecting jobs. Let's keep that in. Finally, do you feel PPP will be extended through the end of the year? Speaking of that, Lance, we're already halfway through 2020, and I know I can speak for the entire panel. I can't wait for 2020 to be over with.
Well, I tend to agree, but the thing that's really exciting for me, guys, is I'm seeing my normal 7A activity pick up and get back closer to normal.
What do you think, Chris?
I think I would be shocked if it doesn't get extended through the end of the year. In fact, we've been moving some things around, chess pieces around in our company, assuming that this is in fact going to be the case, and while we also try to get back to normal 7A, 504, et cetera. So I think it's here at least to the end of the year, probably into early January.
Chris, Lance and I have gone on record that SBA would have issued their loan forgiveness guidelines and logistics by June 30th. Lance and I were sorely mistaken on that. Any inside information when you see that coming down the pike, Chris?
It's not going to happen in the next 2 weeks because they're on recess, of course. And whatever they do, my hunch is they don't actually make it occur until after this newly extended round of PPP is done on August 8th. So
how are you dealing with your board, with your investors, with your auditors on the forgiveness? I love logistics and the accounting, but we don't have a way to process the forgiveness. How are you managing that process, Chris?
Very deftly. We are telling everybody to just breathe and hang in there and stay tuned. And this being PPP, I'm sure it's going to change. And so, we've heard from a number, hundreds of borrowers who are eager to get started. And I'll give them the form and say, if you'd like to start, you can, but just bear in mind, chances are things are going to change between the time you start filling this thing out and the time that we actually know a little bit more detail here late July or August. So, and from an auditor standpoint, we've had many conversations with our auditors about how we're going to do these things, and they're actually looking to us on some help, and everybody's kind of in the same boat. It's a bit of a wait and see game at the moment. It really is.
Katie, I know we're in recess. Give us a quick overview of where we are, though, in this process.
So it hasn't passed the House or the Senate, but it has been introduced. It was introduced back in June. So we've had it for several weeks, and it just needs to go through the whole system. The Senate introduced it. And then yesterday, Rubio made a comment about how he's really looking forward to the next level of what this is going to be, and that being the long-term recovery and passing the P4 program.
Great. As we said yesterday, they did release it. If you want a list of the names, there's a link that you can either Google it, or I think we have it up on our website. And there were 4,300 banks, which is how many more banks participated in PPP in addition, above and beyond the regular 7A. Did you know that offhand, Katie?
About 3,000 more, actually.
3 more. Okay.
Thank you.
But look, those are just amazing numbers. And of course, we all love that last sentence, preserving over 1 million jobs, which is, we have to keep this in mind. That's what this is all about. SBA came out with a new procedural notice. Katie, what are they telling us?
So this just came out this morning. It only basically says that all of the forms that you were using for PPP before, they were supposed to have ended last month at the end of the program. Obviously, the program got extended, so you can keep using those forms until the end of the program, which is now, this says to August 9th, but the program ends August 8th.
We have a couple questions, and maybe this was on Chris's wish list in terms of just forgive the loans under 150. We have 2 questions on that. I believe, to make a decision, I believe that that's going to happen. I don't see anybody opposing that. Lance, what do you think?
I think that's why we haven't been given direction on how to submit forgiveness to SBA yet. SBA doesn't want a mass quantity of forms submitted to them when we're likely to have 90% of the loans that's a simple one-page form. And I think that's part of the reason that we're still waiting for some direction on how we submit forgiveness to SBA. So, guys, in a couple weeks, and I've been in the same boat as Chris. Every borrower that calls me, I'm like, just take a deep breath and relax. In 2 or 3, 4 weeks, we'll know how it's going to go.
Yeah, and we do know that SBA is working obviously with the House and Senate small business committees, and to try to get a consensus of, SBA wants to adopt rules that Congress, to fulfill Congress's intent, right, Katie?
Right, and that thing that Lance was just saying, the below 150,000 blanket forgiveness was just introduced here a couple weeks ago as well, and that had bipartisan support. So I think they're trying to figure out how they can continue to support the spirit of the CARES Act and continue to help small businesses. And I think it's going to take a couple more weeks for us to get forgiveness now that Congress is out for vacation time. But I think we will start hearing things pretty soon here.
Well, Chris, that's, as a lender, that's going to make your job a little bit easier if we can just do a 1-page or less than 150 and not have the documentation. I know you've a big proponent of that for obvious reasons.
It makes our jobs easier, but frankly, it makes the borrower's responsibility easier. And I think that's the more important focus, which is we don't want these folks feeling like they're having another tax season of going through all the documentation and trying to calculate these things and wasting hours where they should be running their business better and hoping, and getting the American economy back on track. That's what we want these small businesses.
All of our clients, all of Main Street, they definitely have to learn how to adapt and what is going on. Hey, this is an interesting question from Jeff. I'll throw it to both you and Lance, Chris. I'm curious what lenders are doing about agent fees. We've received a handful of invoices from these, quote, agents. Not one approached the bank prior to providing, quote, services to the applicant. Not one borrower approached the bank notifying us they were going to use a third-party agent. All the guidance we found thus far would suggest we don't have to pay any of the agent fees, but what are you hearing? What are you doing, Chris? We'll start with you.
We started paying our loan agents last week. We're still paying them this week. We've got hundreds, as you can imagine. We are very careful about where a deal came from. We're actually comparing it. All the submissions obviously are date and time stamped, and we obviously can only be fair and pay whoever sent it to us first, who we have the documentation from. But I'm a little surprised at the question because candidly on the 2484, you have to mark if in fact a loan agent, if in fact a loan agent had helped you as the borrower. So I'm not sure if Jeff may be doing it right or wrong, but it is, I can see why you'd feel a little blindsided if you got loan agents coming to you now asking for payment on loans that they are claiming that they submitted to you. We struggled with this a little bit, and I didn't really like that Treasury came out with their up to 100 basis points, up to 50 basis points, up to 25 basis points on the various loan sizes early in the process because frankly, I don't think a lot of loan agents gave the kind of value add that a lender would normally like on regular 7As, in terms of document collection, analyzing what you're getting, verification, et cetera. There wasn't that much to be done here. And so, we made a decision on some of our loan agents. We based it on past relationships. We based it on volume, submissions, exclusivity, things like that. And, on one-offs, we paid less and we will pay less. So I think, and frankly, I don't know a lot of lenders that paid it. There's a lot of lenders that just categorically said, no, there's no value here and we're not going to pay anything. So this is going to be interesting how things shake out for sure.
Chris, Lance, what is your shop doing?
I can't really touch that one, Bob, because that's not my area of work.
No worries. Very good. Lance, give a preview of the webinar you're doing next week as well as tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow's getting pushed from my understanding, Bob, the guaranteed purchase process. Next week, we're going to do one with information about Main Street lending to give you the facts and information necessary to understand the program and to consider potential implementation at your financial institution.
Very good. Very good. Hey, I really appreciate you taking time out from your vacation, Chris. Have a safe drive back. Thank you very much.
All fun. Yeah.
Can we have Chris spin his computer around and show the group the real background that he's working with?
Yeah, let's do that. That is pretty cool.
All right.
Yeah, that's a rough gig, Chris.
Yeah. Not bad.
I'm going to hang out with Chris.
I've approved another 70 PPP loans in the last 2 days while I've been here, so it's not been all fun and games.
Fun and games, yeah. And that's not a green screen. That's the real live thing. Right?
Still, yeah. It's just behind me is just the reflection off the black.
Very good. Hey, thanks for joining us, Lance. We'll see you all tomorrow. Hey, thanks for joining us for the Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street. One entrepreneur at a time. Thanks a lot.
Have a great week.
Day.
Hey, everybody.